Hello and welcome. So today it is all about spring. I have for you today 12 fragrances that I believe are perfect for the spring season. Some of these fragrances I've had in my collection for a bit of time, others for quite some time, so I've had pretty good experience using them and can tell you quite a bit about them. Two of these fragrances are brand new releases from 2024 that I am excited to share with you. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and in this channel, we love to talk about fragrances, makeup, and fashion. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and sometimes I even have a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in, and that sounds like a good plan, well then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. So before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that we are still in the middle of the 5K giveaway. So you still have the opportunity to enter the giveaway. We will be closing all entries on March 1st, and I will be announcing the two winners during the week of March 4th. Alright, so like I said at the beginning of the video, today it is all about spring fragrances. These are truly, to me, spring fragrances. They are perfect for you to transition from the cold winter months into beautiful spring, and they will also carry you throughout spring in the most splendid of ways. But before we jump into the 12 fragrances that I have for you today, of course, you know I have a couple of honorary mentions, and these fragrances are really special. But because I've talked about them in the channel before, I decided to not include them in the 12 that I will be sharing with you today. And the whole purpose of that was to make sure that I bring you a new fresh selection. So if you've been with me for a while, this first honorary mention will not come as a surprise to you, because I'm sure that you know that I absolutely love BDK Pas Ce Soir. But this one is Pas Ce Soir the Extrait. This is a fragrance that you can't go wrong with during, to me, any season of the year. This is truly a masterpiece of a fragrance. I was madly in love with Pas Ce Soir, but once Pas Ce Soir Extrait came into the picture, guys, it was done. This one definitely took over. The next honorary mention is a fragrance that I have discussed here on the channel. To me, this fragrance truly is spring in a bottle, but this is a fragrance that you can use throughout the year, and I love to use it in the cold winter months layered with other fragrances. I absolutely think that this one is also kind of like a masterpiece. I absolutely love it, and I am speaking about Fleur Narcotique from Ex Nihilo. This is a beautiful fragrance. You know, when I sniff this fragrance, it brings me straight into the beauty and splendor of spring. It's like you flourish with the fragrance. I want to start today with a fragrance, guys, that is a brand new release for 2024. It is a designer fragrance, but this is a brand new collection for this designer, and I am just so impressed and taken by the exceptional beauty of the fragrance. But guys, also the bottle is a piece of art. But let me go ahead and introduce you to Donna, Karan, Cashmere, and Palo Santo. I just have to show you this bottle. This bottle is truly a piece of art. It is so beautiful. It is very weighty. The entire feel of this fragrance is that of luxury and opulence. This is an absolutely gorgeous fragrance, packaged in the most exquisite bottle that I've seen in quite a long time. This is so heavy. The cap is magnetic, and I also love how they also worked the cap just like the bottle. I typically don't like to spend a lot of time talking about a bottle, but this bottle really deserves attention. Now let's talk about this fragrance. Oh my goodness. Now this fragrance is part of a brand new collection launched by Donna Karan. This collection has, I believe, 4 fragrances, and I decided to give this one a shot because I love fragrances with the note of Palo Santo. And then I just thought it was quite peculiar that they combined it with cashmere. Like, oh my goodness. I just figured that it would be a very beautifully elegant and smooth fragrance. But I have to tell you, this fragrance exceeded any expectation that I had. And the good news, guys, is that although this is an exquisite fragrance presented beautifully, it is quite reasonably priced. So this fragrance is an amber, woody, beautiful fragrance that I think is perfection to transition from those cold winter months into spring. This fragrance opens up quite woody, very, very woody, but it's so beautiful. It's truly a combination of woody notes and amber. There's also a muskiness to it that is just beautiful. And then at the dry down, there is a citrus quality to the fragrance that just adds an extra layer of elegance. This is a highly sophisticated and elegant fragrance. It is so, so beautiful and perfect, in my opinion, for any occasion. You could actually make this fragrance your signature scent. Trust me, I believe that you will be known as the elegant one. This fragrance is a unisex fragrance, but it definitely leans heavy on the feminine side. There is just something to this fragrance that, at least to my nose, speaks to a beautifully elegant and sophisticated female. In my using it, I get a good solid 6 hours before it becomes a skin scent. And it does have a moderate sillage and moderate projection. I've worn this fragrance on 2 different occasions, and on one of them I did receive 1 compliment. All in all, I can't say enough about this new 2024 release, and I am actually looking forward to picking up a couple of other bottles from this collection, because if they are all like this one, oh my goodness, this is just a beautiful, beautifully elegant fragrance. So I figured since I started with a 2024 release, I would continue with the second fragrance on this list that is a brand new 2024 release. And I am speaking about Miss Dior. Now this fragrance was just released maybe a month ago, but I picked it up immediately. So I've never been, too crazy about Miss Dior, to be honest with you. I did have a bottle of the 2015 version of this fragrance, and I did finish the bottle, and then I just never replaced it. I do think it's a very, very lovely fragrance, but I just never felt the need to replace it. But when I saw that they were coming out with a 2024 version, that Frank Kirkdejan would be the perfumer, I just knew I had to pick it up. Now this fragrance does have the DNA of Miss Dior that we've come to expect. But much like the 2012 version, I have to tell you, it is quite heavy on the patchouli. I dare say that if you are not a patchouli lover, this will not be the fragrance for you. This fragrance I find is perfect for the spring season, and it will also help you transition smoothly into spring. It opens up quite woody with a certain level of fruitiness. But the star of the show is that patchouli. I pick it up almost immediately upon first sniff. This fragrance is quite ambery and sweet and has a beautiful earthy quality that I did not pick up much on in the 2012 version. But I think that earthiness that I'm picking up now, I'm pretty sure is due to that patchouli note that I am telling you is quite emphasized in this fragrance. As always, this fragrance is a bit warm, spicy, and has some beautiful white florals. There's also like a mossy touch to it. And there is a note of moss in this fragrance, but you don't necessarily get a strong moss presence. It's just like a touch of it, which makes it perfect. This is also another fragrance that will make you feel beautifully feminine and vibrant and joyous, like blooming in spring itself. This is quite a lovely fragrance that I think that you could use for any occasion, and you could use it day or night. One of my observations on this new version of Miss Dior is that I feel that it's been a bit modernized. There's a bit of an edge that I pick up on this fragrance, and I know that the patchouli has something to do with that. But it's almost like they've revamped this fragrance to make it a bit less classical and a bit more modern. This fragrance to me is not unisex at all. This is definitely a feminine fragrance. In using it, I was able to get a good 7 hours before it becomes a skin scent. And that is, in all honesty, when overspraying. When it comes to sillage and projection, I get a moderate sillage and a moderate projection. Although the first hour after you spray this fragrance, the projection is a tad strong. But all in all, this fragrance is, as usual, not designed to be loud. It's designed to be smooth and beautifully feminine. So the next fragrance that I want to share with you today is one that is very special to me. And in putting together the fragrances that I'm sharing with you today, you will notice that I try to bring you different types of fragrances, but also with a great variety of dominant notes. This next fragrance I love because of its violet and iris. So if you are a violet and iris fragrance lover, well, pay attention because I'm speaking about Electus Vixer. This fragrance, oh my goodness, guys. This is a lovely, lovely fragrance that opens beautifully loaded with citrus notes. It is powdery, of course, because of the violet and iris in here. It has a good amount of vanilla, but the vanilla is just blending perfectly well with the rest of the notes. It is sweet, ambery, and musky with a backdrop of woody notes that give it quite a bit of character and edge. This is a fragrance that I recommend for use all throughout the year. But I have to tell you, because of that note of violet and iris, which is quite dominant, and that beautiful powdery dry down, I think this fragrance is perfection to transition into the spring months and use it all throughout the spring season. This is a fragrance that I pull for informal, casual, formal, any type of occasion. It is truly a beauty. I get a solid 8+ hours from this fragrance. This is not one that I recommend that you overspray. If you've never tried an Electus fragrance, I have to tell you that I have 5 in my collection and they are all powerhouses. And this one does not disappoint. Like I said before, I definitely get 8+ hours from it. I get a very strong projection for the first 2 hours, and then it becomes a scent bubble. It's only around the 6 or 7 hour mark that it starts to become a skin scent. But the skin scent is a little bit more than just a skin scent, and it just gets me through all throughout the 8 hours plus. This to me is definitely a fragrance that is unisex, but if I had to pick a leaning side, I would say that it leans a bit more feminine. All in all, I highly recommend this fragrance, and I think that you would be a complete success if this were your fragrance for spring. The next fragrance that I want to share with you today is one that I don't hear people talk about this brand much, and most specifically, I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this fragrance. But I have several fragrances from this fragrance house, and I absolutely love the quality and the exquisite smoothness of their fragrances. I think that this one will be yet another one that, if you decided to add her to your collection, will be an absolute hit to transition from the cold winter months into spring. And I am speaking about Orman Jane Damask. Damask is a floral, woody musk fragrance that is an absolute delight and beauty to wear. This is a fragrance that you can use all throughout the year, but I prefer to use it during the spring and summer months. This is a fragrance that is very easy to pull. It is such a beautiful, beautiful scent. It is a fragrance that you can use for any occasion, day or night. I've heard people say that this is really a rose fragrance, and I have to say that I do agree. Upon opening, you are hit immediately with the most beautiful collection of roses. I can clearly tell that there may be some red roses, a bit of a pink fresh rose, and some white roses here. It is quite fruity while also having a beautiful citrus notes background. It's also musky, soft, spicy, and quite aromatic. The dried down, you get the most beautiful collection of roses with a backdrop of citruses that just make the fragrance have this fresh and beautiful quality to it. I think that this is a fragrance that you should get your nose on if you want a fragrance that can carry you from day to night all throughout the spring season, feeling versatile, modern, beautifully feminine. The next fragrance that I have for you is a very special fragrance. This is a fragrance that did receive a certain amount of attention when it was first launched, but then there was another fragrance that really did take on all of the hype, if you know what I mean. And I am speaking about Giardini di Toscana Shabby Chic. Shabby Chic is a floral woody musk fragrance that is an absolute delight. This is a fragrance that you can use all throughout the year, but I like to reserve it and really use it during the spring and summer months, most specifically spring. This is also a fragrance that I really like to reserve for like daytime occasions, whether it be a casual or a more formal type of daytime event. You could use it to go to the office, and it would transition you into early evening events. But this is definitely not a fragrance that I would use for a date night or anything like that. This is really an exquisite, beautiful daytime fragrance, in my opinion, that is well suited for the spring season. This fragrance opens with the most beautiful combination of florals, but you will immediately be able to tell that the rose is the dominant note. It is also musky and fresh. In all honesty, it almost gives you like a clean and fresh feel. At the dry down, you get the most beautiful combination of white florals, powderiness against a backdrop of woody notes. It is an absolutely beautiful spring fragrance. The next fragrance that I want to share with you today is honestly, guys, one of my favorite fragrances. And if you've been with me for a while, you will absolutely not be surprised when I bring out Love Tuberose from Amouage. Just like the name says it, the dominant note in this gorgeous, stunning fragrance is tuberose. So you really have to be a tuberose lover because the tuberose is dominant front and center, all the way from first spray all the way to dry down. It opens with an incredible amount of white florals and vanilla, with the continuous backdrop of a very intense and dominant tuberose note. It's sweet, it has like a lactonic quality to it, and at the dry down, it's a tad animalic. This is a fragrance that I pull for all throughout the year, but I would definitely say that it is true perfection to transition from the cold winter months into spring. This is one that you can dress down, you can dress it up, and it is definitely appropriate for day or night occasions. This to me is definitely unisex but leans a bit feminine. It has a very strong projection and a very good sillage. I get a solid 7 to 8 hours with this fragrance without overspraying. The next fragrance on my list is for those of you who really love an exquisitely stunning green fragrance. And I am speaking about Une Nuit Nomade Love at First Sight. Love at First Sight is a beautiful floral green fragrance. This is a fragrance that I reserve specifically for the spring and summer seasons. I do not pull this fragrance during the fall or winter seasons at all. But I do use it quite a bit during the spring and summer for any occasion, but primarily during the day. This is a fragrance that is quite green, but it's not like, you know how there's some green fragrances that are kind of like overbearing? Not this fragrance. This fragrance has been blended beautifully and all of the notes here play so well together. This is an extremely elegant fragrance, perfect for daytime occasions during those warm seasons. To me, this fragrance is really unisex and leans just a tad feminine. It opens with quite a bit of florals, but there's like a fresh feel to it and also like a bit of a tropical twist. It is also quite sweet and fruity. Not overbearing sweet, but it's just, you can pick up on the fact that it's sweet. All in all, this is a perfect fragrance that gets me a minimum of 6 hours without overspraying and does become a skin scent at that point. I get moderate sillage and moderate projection. There is nothing intense about this fragrance. It is all about the beautiful smoothness of the spring and summer seasons. The next fragrance is a fragrance that I think is perfect for those iris, powdery, fresh, spicy type of fragrance lovers. This fragrance, I don't hear people talk about much. I don't think I've ever heard them talk much about it, even when it was launched. But I am speaking about Mask Milano Lost Alice. Lost Alice is a beautiful fragrance that I like to pull very much during the spring season. But this is a fragrance that you could use all throughout the year, with the exception, I would say, of summer months. I don't think that this is a good fragrance for the summer because of the high temperatures. But I do believe this fragrance is perfection for spring. This is one that you can use during the day, during the night, and for any occasion. This fragrance opens up quite powdery immediately. You know how most of the time you get a powdery dry down and there's a journey to get you there? Not with this fragrance. As soon as you sniff it, you're going to pick up on that powderiness and the iris. It is definitely fresh, spicy, and a tad aromatic. It has like this lactonic touch to it. It is woody and musky. This fragrance is so beautiful, guys. It is woody, musky, like with a quality of like earthiness to it that just grounds the fragrance. It is an absolute delight. This is a fragrance that I definitely highly recommend that you get your nose on. But if you've ever tried it, let me know. This fragrance is for my true floral fragrances lovers. If you are looking for a stunningly beautiful and elegant fragrance to carry you through the spring months, I definitely recommend EBK's Moonstone and Tuberose. This fragrance, guys, I really do love the EBK Fragrance House. I know that it's not easy to get your hands on their fragrances because you can only get them through their fragrance house. So you have to go online and send them an email. I'll give you all the information in the description box on how to get your hands on one of these fragrances. But when I tell you that all of that is so worth it, because this is an exquisite, beautiful tuberose fragrance. This is one that you can use all throughout the year for any occasion, day or night. It opens up with the most exquisite white florals, and I can clearly pick up on the angelica and the tuberose. It is just an absolutely beautifully done white florals fragrance. It is also musky, ambery, and definitely powdery. And at the dry down, you get all of that plus a bit of like an animalic note, but it is also smoothly blended in the fragrance. So it's not something that's going to be screechy or unbearable or offensive. This is a fragrance that you could definitely make your signature scent. You could go to the office with it. Like I said before, you can do absolutely anything with it. I get a solid 8+ hours from this fragrance, and it has a very strong projection during the first 2 to 3 hours, when it then becomes a scent bubble. And then around the 6-hour mark is when it becomes a skin scent, but one that as you wear it throughout the day will continue to give you like whiffs of the beautiful fragrance. This to me definitely, it's considered a unisex fragrance, but to me this is definitely a feminine fragrance. And needless to say, tuberose can be quite intense. And in this fragrance, it is a very dominant note. So just make sure that you don't have a problem with white florals or tuberose. The next fragrance is from a fragrance house that I don't hear people talk about much, but I absolutely love this fragrance house. I have about 5, I think, or 6 fragrances from them at this point, and I am absolutely obsessed with their DNA. I am speaking about Hilly from HWIAN. Now, Hilly is a fragrance that I will use all throughout the year, but I think it is perfection to transition from the cold winter months into spring and to carry you through the spring season. I use it day or night and for any occasion. This fragrance opens with a beautiful collection of white florals. But what I love about this fragrance is that all of the white florals play very well together in that opening. They're not heady, there's nothing screechy, and there's not one competing for the attention of the rest. There's some yellow florals in here, and at some point of that olfactory journey, you clearly pick up on tuberose. But the tuberose is not dominant because, like I said, all of the florals in this fragrance, the white and the yellow florals and the tuberose, they all play very well together. In the backdrop of that very white floral opening and something that carries you all the way through to dry down is a beautiful collection of woody notes that are like the backdrop of all of those florals, giving this fragrance kind of like a smooth, beautiful feel while also having quite a bit of character. It is also sweet, soft, spicy, with beautiful vanilla. I don't pick up vanilla in the opening of the fragrance. It's like halfway down the olfactory journey that the vanilla, at least on my nose, makes its appearance. At the dry down, guys, you're going to have the most beautiful collection of florals with like a warm, spicy quality and powderiness, and, are you ready? A beautiful note of coconut. But the thing about this fragrance is that even though it does have that coconut note that you will definitely pick up at the dry down, it doesn't give this fragrance a tropical quality. So this fragrance is really a very sophisticated and very elevated type of fragrance. I wouldn't say that this is perfect for informal occasions. This to me is more like a smart casual type of fragrance, and maybe semi-formal and formal, definitely fragrance. Hilly is a high compliment getter, but I have to tell you, all of the fragrances that I have from this fragrance house always get me compliments. There is just something, like I said at the beginning, there's just something about the DNA of the fragrances from HWIAN. I get a strong sillage from this fragrance that definitely leaves a trail, thus the number of compliments. And I also get 7 to 8 hours from this fragrance without overspraying. I did overspray it once, and I don't think that I want to do that ever again, because the projection when you first spray is so strong that I just felt that I was going to choke on the fragrance. This is definitely a unisex fragrance with a very strong lean towards the feminine side. The next fragrance on my list is for those of you who are truly into a citrus fragrance. I repeat, citrus. There is nothing faint about this fragrance, and the citrus notes in it are quite bold. I am speaking about Atelier de Ors Blanc Polychrome. If I had to speak of the most true 100% citrus fragrance that I not only have in my collection, but that I've ever sniffed, I would have to say that Blanc Polychrome is it. This is a fragrance that is all about citrus notes and is unapologetic in doing so. This is not a fragrance that I would recommend at all that you pull for any other seasons except spring and summer. This is definitely, at least for me, a daytime fragrance, and you can use it actually for any occasion. If you have a spring or summer wedding or any other type of event during the day, then this is the fragrance. This is not even a fragrance that I pull if I am going to be attending an event that even ends during the early evening hours. This is truly a daytime fragrance in my opinion, because those citruses are here to stay. This fragrance, of course, opens with, oh my goodness, this is all about the citruses, guys. This is the ultimate citrus fragrance. So if you are into citrus notes, then this is definitely for you. In the opening, in addition to those very strong citrus notes, which for me specifically are lemon and mandarin orange with a backdrop of rhubarb, which is something that I wanted to mention because I know that many of you don't like rhubarb. There's quite a bit of people that really don't like the note of rhubarb, and to my nose, rhubarb is like key in this very citrusy opening. This fragrance, as to be expected, is quite green. So if you are not into green fragrances, this is definitely not the fragrance for you. If you love a beautifully done citrus green fragrance with a touch of musk and amberiness, then this is your best friend. This fragrance is definitely a unisex fragrance, and as to be expected, it is a citrus fragrance, so you do get moderate projection and moderate sillage, and it gets me around a solid 5 hours, and it becomes a skin scent around the 2-hour mark. The next fragrance on my list is for those of you who are into gourmand fragrances that don't necessarily make you smell like food. They're more like floral, fruity gourmand fragrances that are perfect for the spring and summer seasons. The fragrance that I'm speaking about is from Bois 1920 and is classic Paradise. This fragrance is an absolute delight, guys, and I hope that, I'm linking everything for you in the description box, so I'm hoping that I can actually find it for you, because WAS 1920 is not very easy to find, but my goodness, I have several of their fragrances and the quality is just there. This is a fragrance that is perfection, in my opinion, for the spring and summer seasons, and it is one that I recommend for use during any occasion, day or night. This fragrance opens with a good deal of citrus notes that include orange, bergamot, lemon. I can also pick up on a hint of cassis. It is also woody, sweet, powdery, with a beautifully done vanilla. It is also fresh, spicy, and a tad aromatic. At the dry down, you're gonna get the most beautiful, creamy quality to it, courtesy of a combination of patchouli, coconut, and sandalwood. This fragrance is just a delight, and one that will definitely get you quite a number of compliments. This is the perfect fragrance for those occasions during spring, summer, where you have to attend an event and you just want to smell like the season without necessarily smelling like food. I get moderate projection and sillage and a good solid 7 to 8 hours if I overspray this fragrance. And with this one, I must say I really overspray. This to me is definitely a unisex fragrance. It doesn't really lean in any direction. This is definitely a unisex fragrance. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of the video, and I hope that you enjoyed the fragrances that I brought to you today specific for the spring season. And at times you can even use them for spring, summer, or even all throughout the year. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging with me today. I want to say a special welcome and thank you for joining our fragrance loving family. To all of our new subscribers, we are growing, the family is growing, and I am so thankful and appreciative to all of you. Thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you in the next video.